The call begins with a familiar voice, using rushed panic to pull attention away from ordinary life, exploiting instant recognition and timing, creating urgency before thought, and relying on the listener's instinctive trust in a voice that sounds exactly like family despite being artificially cloned. Scammers follow rehearsed scripts built to trigger concern, using urgency and secrecy, while AI voice cloning replicates tone, breathing, and inflection from brief public clips, making the impersonation believable enough that instinct overrides logic and the listener reacts before verifying anything important. Their goal is speed, pushing Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, gift cards, or crypto ATMs while keeping the victim on the line, discouraging outside contact, and fabricating chaotic background noise to trap the listener between fear and obligation, reducing the chance of questioning the story. Modern clones sound natural, copying familiar speech habits like rushed phrasing or quick breaths, creating a convincing digital mirror of loved ones despite lacking genuine emotion, and challenging the old belief that recognizing a relative's voice is a reliable safeguard against manipulation. The weakness remains improvisation, as clones cannot answer real questions about recent conversations or shared experiences, relying instead on urgency to prevent verification, making slower thinking and calm testing the key defenses against being pushed into quick, unexamined action. The first defensive step is to pause and hang up, breaking the emotional tunnel created by the script, allowing clarity to return as the pressure fades, restoring the ability to evaluate the situation with steadier thinking instead of reacting to manufactured crisis cues. The second step uses trusted channels, calling back through saved contacts, relying on family passwords, or contacting another relative to confirm safety, because scammers depend on isolation and secrecy, while legitimate situations withstand verification and contact across multiple family members. The third step involves cleanup by tightening privacy settings, removing unnecessary public videos, silencing unknown callers, and alerting the family group so awareness spreads, reducing vulnerability and making it harder for scammers to reuse similar tactics on anyone else. If money has already moved, the next action is contacting the bank immediately using clear language about social engineering, requesting escalation, and filing reports with federal and state authorities, documenting events to strengthen any chance of recovery or future protection. Technical expertise isn't required. Preparation matters more, using a simple mental script to pause, verify, and prevent panic from dictating decisions, allowing care and caution to coexist without feeling disloyal when confirming whether a sudden crisis is genuine. Understanding this system means recognizing that method replaces instinct in a world where convincing voices are easy to fake, making deliberate verification the most reliable path through emotionally charged, unexpected calls seeking fast, unquestioned action. The routine remains constant. Pause and hang up, call back through trusted contacts, secure accounts, and notify family, providing a stable and effective approach to staying ahead of evolving scams without drama, just steady habits suited to a noisy modern world. The strange part about the modern grandparent scam is that it doesn't feel modern at all, because the call arrives sounding familiar, claiming trouble, counting on instinct, and using a cloned voice built from 10 seconds of online audio to recreate tone, breath, and rhythm convincingly enough to bypass hesitation entirely. What ties these calls together is urgency, because scammers laid with tears, stress, deadlines, and secrecy, pushing you toward reaction instead of reasoning while directing you immediately to Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, gift cards, or a crypto ATM, fast, irreversible transfers that depend on the panic they create. They keep you on the line because continuity drives the pressure, using fake background noise and rushed exchanges to block clear thinking, and every detail of that performance aims to shrink your decision-making window until you're too overloaded to compare facts or involve someone else. Voice cloning works through pattern matching, copying tiny breathing habits and inflections people don't consciously track, making the call feel legitimate long before logic has time to respond, which is why simply knowing your kid's voice no longer protects anyone from a convincing digital imitation. Even the best clone can't improvise, because it can't reference recent conversations or shared memories, and scammers rely on you not probing that weakness long enough to move money before verification breaks the spell, making time the true target rather than trust or knowledge. The first step of the protocol, pause and hang up, breaks the manufactured emotional tunnel, because disconnecting resets your pace, slows adrenaline, restores clarity, and removes the artificial urgency that scammers depend on during the opening seconds of the call. The second step is calling back through a saved contact or using a family password, because real connections survive verification while scams collapse when a second family member enters the conversation, eliminating the secrecy that these operations require to stay believable. Step 3 is lockdown, tightening privacy, deleting stray videos, silencing unknown callers, and alerting the family group so everyone recognizes the script, turning awareness into a collective shield that prevents scammers from reusing the same tactics on other relatives. If money has already moved, the next step is containment, calling the bank immediately, using the exact phrase, "I was the victim of a social engineering scam," requesting escalation, and filing reports with federal and state agencies so documentation replaces confusion with a verifiable record. Culturally, we're living in a moment where emotional cues can be simulated and urgency can be automated, yet the defenses remain human, relying on routine over expertise, because panic thrives on improvisation while steady method neutralizes most of the pressure built into these calls. Older adults carry an unexpected advantage, having lived through dial-up, early scams, and disruptive technologies before, making pause verify proceed a familiar rhythm that still works, and open family conversations about near misses remove the embarrassment scammers rely on to silence victims. So when the phone rings and the voice sounds familiar but the story feels off, the move is process, not panic, because the voice isn't proof and urgency isn't evidence. Verification is the only anchor, and with 10 seconds of calm, the person who stays steady usually wins. It's easy to treat these scam calls like a sign that the world has spun out of control, but the truth is quieter. The technology changed faster than the instincts we already had, and compared to dial-up chaos or frozen office email chains, one cloned voice is just another tool trying to borrow our urgency. Most older adults underestimate how much wisdom they already carry, because knowing what a real crisis sounds like makes it easier to see the difference between information and pressure. And once you pair that instinct with a simple routine, pause, hang up, verify, the scammer's entire script collapses. The moment you view these calls as patterned performances instead of personal attacks, the embarrassment disappears, because freezing for a second is human, and the scam works only because the voice sounds familiar enough to bypass judgment until a clear process pulls you back into control. Identity shifts in subtle ways once you understand how easily a voice can be faked, because urgency stops feeling like a command and starts feeling like something to confirm, letting you set the pace by choosing when to answer when to verify, and when to shut everything down. The part that feels unfair is that the burden lands on the person receiving the call, not the one impersonating a grandkid. And even though you didn't build the cloning tools or write the script, you still have to interrupt the pattern with one steady, practiced habit. Clarity returns faster than people expect once they rehearse the loop mentally, picturing the call, the rising panic, and then the reset. A simple pause, a quick hang-up, and a controlled callback through a saved contact, which turns the entire scam into a dead signal. Repetition builds muscle memory, the same way checking a lock or reviewing a receipt does, and soon the scam loses its bite because it can't survive outside its own narrow script, especially once you refuse to stay inside the rush that gives it oxygen. Maybe the world didn't actually get stranger. Maybe the tools just got louder, pushing for speed in places where steady judgment still works best. And adapting to that environment is less about expertise and more about reclaiming the pace of your own reactions. We've adapted to bigger shifts before: unreliable connections, broken software, misfiring filters, and nothing about a cloned voice changes the fact that slowing down still beats any trick built on urgency, because speed is the scammer's edge and time is yours. The habit loop holds regardless of how advanced the technology becomes. The familiar voice arrives, the urgent story unfolds, and instead of reacting, you treat the entire moment as a signal to regain control by stepping out of the script and back into your own routine. Once you stop assuming your ears are perfect, your awareness sharpens, and the scammer loses the small advantage they counted on, because confidence built on understanding, not fear, turns their best tactic into a predictable moment you know exactly how to handle. Slow down, verify, then act. That rhythm outlasts every new trick, and old dogs don't chase trends. We walk beside them, steady enough to see what's real and what's noise, which turns out to be the pace that keeps you safest in the long run.